Hello, this is Craig. So we are continuing to build our Kids Club magazine cover and learning Photoshop as we do it. So I have downloaded the tutorial file from my website, and this is the Kids Club photo. And this is the original photo that came off of a SLR digital camera and a DSLR digital camera. And this was shot with a Canon EOS Rebel 5, 5, I think it's just the 5i. So what we're going to do is we're going to first, when you bring any photo in, we want to look at this and we want to sharpen it a little bit and we want to adjust the color a little bit. If you see the differences here, see their skin tones are a little bit warmer. This camera was a little bit blasted out. Could have been from the bluish glow lights over here for the plants as they're planting their seeds. So we'll start with making sure that our file format is in RGB, and we will take the photo, the layer, and control click, and we'll make this excuse me, into a smart object. If you remember from past tutorials of mine, we're changing it into a smart object so that whatever filters we apply to it, they're non-destructive, meaning that they don't affect the original photograph. They're just attached as separate little files. So now that I have my little icon here to show that this is a smart object, I'm going to go up under Filters to Camera Raw Filter. This will open a second dialog box. And if you look, I can close this up a little bit so you can see it just kind of hovers over the original one here. So in Camera Raw, you have a lot of options that you don't have, and you have more of a finite control over things as far as the color balance and the light balance and focusing. All of these things, there's so much more in Camera Raw than if you used a curves adjustment layer or a black and white adjustment layer or the levels adjustment layer, or even the brightness and contrast. Those are somewhat limited, so I prefer to open it in Camera Raw and do these make these changes in here. So the first thing I'm going to do is in just the basic. In the basic, I'm going to bump up the saturation. Everything looks a little bit flat, plus I want everything to have a little more punch to it. So you can see I can really punch it up, blast everybody out. These children look like they have too much sun, maybe too much light. If I bring this down to maybe about 20 or so, that gives them just a little more punch. You can see the difference here in their clothes, their shirts, their skin tone. Just warms them up just a little bit. Next, I'm going to jump over here to my hue, saturation, and luminance. On the hue, I'm going to take these reds. I'm going to bring them down just a little bit. And the oranges too. Just a touch. It seemed like when I bumped up all the other colors, the shirt and the clothes and stuff looked good, but the skin tone looked just a little bit bright. So maybe we'll try like a 15 here, and maybe the oranges are going to be okay. Again, with Photoshop, there's no magic. You just kind of go until you find something that you think looks good. Maybe I'll go with a 10 here. Excellent, I think that's looking pretty good. Remember, you can always split the view so you can see the difference, what they look like before and after. Skin tones look a little bit warmer, and I definitely like the punch of the yellow and kind of the teal and the purple, I'm sorry, the pink as well. So next I'm going to jump over to sharpen, excuse me. And I can do, this automatically does a little bit of sharpening. If you want to do your sharpening in here, you can, but I prefer to do it with an Unsharp Mask in Photoshop. So on a separate layer, adjustment layer. So I'm going to click OK. This is going to return me to my original photo here. Now these are looking a little bit closer. You can see that it's placed the adjustment layer here, which is the Camera Raw filter. If I ever want to go back in and adjust that, if I'm thinking like, boy, I wish I had just a little more yellow in here, or if I want to brighten this up just a little bit, I can just double click on this and it opens back up, and I can find what I changed before, and I can adjust those just a little bit more. Okay, so with this layer selected, I'm going to go back up to Filter, to Sharpen, and choose Unsharp Mask. And I really like Unsharp Mask. It's been around for a long time in Photoshop, kind of tried and true. And what I traditionally do is start at about 100, and then I will adjust the radius from 1 to 2. If you go too far, you can see that it really sharpens things and darkens your darks, adds a little bit of contrast. So you want to use just a tiny little bit. Sometimes I'll just do 1.5, 1.1 or 2. There was a time when Photoshop didn't do the decimal points, just 1 or 2, so I was always used to doing 1 or 2. So if I take the preview off, you can see how in her eyes, just sharpens them just a little bit without making them look like they are pixelated, and you have that little bit of blur in there, which you don't, or you still want the blur, you don't want the pixelization in here. I might even take that back down to 1. There, I like that. So I'm going to click OK. You'll notice now I have 2 separate adjustment layers on my smart object here. The first one that shows up is the Unsharp Mask, and then the second one is the Camera Raw Filter. So now I am ready with this photograph. I kind of like how it looks. It looks a little bit, or pretty close to the way this looks. Now the last thing I really have to do with the photograph is you can see that it's been flipped. So the logo goes over here to the left and the kids go over to the right and below it. So what I will do is I will go under Edit to Transform, and I will simply flip this. And you will see that it flips the photograph and just on the layer. If I wanted to flip everything, I could go to Image and I could do Flip, and that would flip the whole canvas. It adds that word canvas right there. So if I just want to do a layer, and I don't have to select the layer, just whatever that layer is, I will transform here under Edit Transform, and that flips it so that it gets, so now it's in position the way I had the final one. So that should get us started. We have the photograph, we opened it up, we made sure it was RGB, we converted that to a smart object, adjusted some things in Camera Raw Filter, sharpened it a little bit with the Unsharp Mask filter, and we have these, they're still attached as adjustment layers, so they are non-destructive, and that will get us started with the photograph. In the next video, we'll start adding some typography and some of the images to it. Thank you very much.